Alright guys, welcome to the 10th episode of Lifting the Lid.
In this episode, expect to find out how teamwork differs between civvies and marines, why, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much room,
And what I think of adults who go to Disney World.
Let's get into it.
Right, welcome back to part 2 of 10 lessons that I learned at Lympstone. Not me.
Yeah, not Eddie.
Not
he,
me.
he has been there once.
I'd
be impressed if you learnt 10 lessons in a 2 hour period. But so this is the last 5 of the 10. Clearly we're going to go through our segments first. Just one thing for the visual listeners.
It's not another caveat.
That's watchers. No, it's not a caveat. It's a product placement. So
oh yes.
if you want Brummy Brothers merch, then it's coming in hot. Not this though.
Not that, because that's shit.
Because that is shit.
We did trust an underqualified man to produce that for us. I can assure you in the future that any merch that is released will be of good standard.
Yeah, will be of good quality. But if you're not watching, go back and watch that bit, because that's the little trailer for the merch. Anyway.
Yeah, well, we trusted a man called Iqbal who made promises around storage that weren't upheld.
Yeah, and may or may not be called Iqbal.
yeah. We don't know his name, so we have given him the name of Iqbal.
Also, almost an anti-caveat here, so the audio should be much better today because we're in the bar again. So.
Yeah, we're back in the bar again, so if you're not watching on YouTube, watch on YouTube.
Exactly, because we've got the set back now. This will be few and far between in a few weeks, because we'll be out and about fucking interviewing blokes. So.
Yeah, exactly. They're becoming thick and fast, different backdrops.
Yeah, exactly. Mostly the same backdrop for 3 of them.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Right, so...
Different back shots.
Right, that's good, isn't it? We haven't had box scrunning in for a few weeks.
No, I'll have to get it in now. I'll get it in when you least expect it.
That's a challenge.
Yeah.
Right, so helmet of the week.
Helmet of the week.
First of all, so it's not an individual, is it?
No, so we outed Eddie Abu last week, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
We rained our tractor beam solely in on him.
Yeah.
We've cast the net wider this week.
I'm sure he's flapping about that. He's probably not made some content this week. So, I probably shouldn't.
Sleepless nights for Eddie Abu.
Yeah, he probably shouldn't post that because the Brummy Brothers are going to see it and they'll probably call me out again. So at least we've done some good in the world there. But yeah, this is more of a style of coach, or not necessarily coach, but just
it's more of a marketing strategy, isn't it?
Well, I guess
than anything.
Yeah. It depends. It doesn't really matter what you're doing. It is just a marketing strategy.
Yeah. So this is coaches on social media who basically out other coaches needlessly.
Yeah. So
we need to caveat this, because I appreciate that on this podcast we do out a lot of coaches, but that's justified
because they're shit
and they're helmets.
Yeah.
This is the marketing strategy of I'm going to throw every other coach under the bus because what I offer is somehow unique.
Yeah, somehow unique, or I've got the magic pill, or, join my fucking 12-week program, it's better than everyone else's. When realistically you're offering the same thing. Most of the time, so people, I'm going to get businessy for a minute, but people in a market need 3 things to buy from you, right? They need to know you, like you, and trust you. Okay? So, know you, they follow you on social media, then they know you. Trust you, they should trust you at least credible enough to do what you say you can do. And then the like you piece is the last bit.
But I think that's the piece that's most overlooked.
If you're one-to-one, 100%, because you have to create rapport with the people you're trying to get on board. And if you haven't got that, then they're not just going to buy into you just because of maybe what you've done in the past, or maybe what you tell them is involved in the program. If they're not bought into you as an individual, it's useless, because you're just another PT who's qualified. They see everyone as the same.
At face value, it just seems so obvious that, if you're going to invest in someone, specifically like with one-to-one coaching, you need to like them.
Well,
because you're going to have a lot of contact time with them.
That's it. One of the questions I ask myself when I'm working with clients on the phone in the initial call is, do I like the person? Because I'm going to spend a lot of time interacting with that person. We need to have a good relationship, otherwise it's not going to work.
Yeah, it's symbiotic, isn't it? Like, they need to like you, but you also, as a coach, need to like them, because otherwise you're going to put no time or effort into trying to get the best out of them as a person. Yeah,
and also there's going to be friction there when you're reaching out to them or whatever it is. If something doesn't align, then it's not going to work, and that goes both ways. And so the like you part of a marketing strategy is huge. and that requires you to be like personable on your social media accounts and to be providing value, because then people are like, fucking hell, he's good. He provides me with something. I learn something every time I go on the page or whatever it is. And then eventually over time they're like, okay, I like this person. And then you've got to tick the other two boxes and you might have a client.
So if we're going back to coaches that are out in other coaches, I think by doing that they're demonstrating completely opposite.
I agree.
Of what we say you need to convey in order to attract clients.
Yeah, so...
Because it's not very personal, is it? Because all you've got to say is negative.
Well, yeah, you're effectively...
And equally, you're not providing value because you're not giving them anything. You're just telling them that what someone else has said is shit.
Well, exactly, and you're not providing value because you're not actually talking about anything. You're worrying more, right? This is the other thing as well. You're worrying more about what other coaches are going to think, or what other coaches think of you, what you do, rather than what the potential client base thinks of you. Whereas the coaches aren't going to be buying from you. The client base is going to be buying from you. So you're better off providing value to them rather than spending your time and words and effectively, the time within your posts and reels just calling other people out and saying they're shit, I'm the best. Also comes across a little bit arrogant.
Yeah. So James Smith touched on this in the seminar of his that we went to at IFS. He said that the best soundboard for you as a coach, content-wise, are your clients.
Yeah.
Don't worry if loads of other coaches are doing reels on X. If your clients, if they're repeated, if different people are asking you the same thing, make a reel on it.
Yeah.
Because there's obviously a demand for it then.
Well, that's clearly a question within your market or your niche that isn't being answered.
100%.
And so you answering that on social media might garner the respect or know you, like you, trust you of the potential clients you're trying to get on board. But doing just the same old thing where you're like, everyone else is shit, I'm the best. I'm not going to tell you why I'm the best, but I am just the best. So you better trust me on that. Doesn't really achieve that, does it?
Yeah. No, it's a lot. It's this. The saying like, people are afraid to put their head above the parapet.
Yeah.
If you're of the perspective where you're just going to shit on other coaches, instead of kind of standing up tall and kind of espousing what you believe in, you're just trying to snipe people that have kind of put their head above the parapet. That makes sense.
True, yeah.
It's like tall poppy syndrome, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah. So you're sort of reaching out to make. Well, this is difficult as well because James Smith did this with what's his name, Joe Wicks, didn't he?
Yes.
Early doors.
Famously, it's like his nemesis.
Yeah,
isn't it?
early doors. It was like, okay, who's the top of my fucking fat loss niche? It's Joe Wicks. I'm gonna go after him. So there is a little bit of that can work, and to be fair, being negative gets you more views. However, James Smith was always being negative with an underlying narrative, an underlying message to the post. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
like, he would take shots at someone, whoever it is. He still does it now, but there's an underlying educational narrative, and that's fine because you watch that, you think, okay, like you get some humour out of it, whatever. It's quite enticing. We like conflict between people, just as humans, and also as the post gets tied up, you're getting some educational value from it. So he's ticked all the boxes there, and that's why he's done so well. But if you're just going down the road of eating our bed, then it doesn't really achieve much, in my opinion.
Are we going to go down the example route of the military prep niche? It depends how much shade you want to throw. Effectively, I'll leave this.
We can't name any names, can we?
No, we can't.
No.
Yet.
Yeah. Depends how they behave next next couple of weeks.
They're on parole at the moment, so they want to tread lightly if I was there. The wrath of the Brummy brothers.
Yeah, all 500 views of it. What was I going to say? Yeah, only this is only pertinent because it's my niche, and I think I said on my stories. People were like, someone asked me questions. They were like, "Do you get any hate from people or something along those lines?" And I was answered with, I get mainly hate from serving bootnecks and bootnecks who've been to Afghan basically, and loads of people were super surprised at that, and that includes people who are like my old stripe who'd been to sergeant, who'd been to Afghan, all that kind of thing. So it's not everyone by any stretch of the imagination. It's more people who have skin in the game, effectively, which makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's people who are maybe targeting the same niche or a similar niche or whatever, and believe that I'm where I am through luck versus something I've done, which might be true. But
I mean,
who gives a shit? Who gives a shit?
To be fair, if you're not getting hate, in my opinion, you're not doing something right.
Agreed, yeah.
Because if you're ruffling a few feathers, that means you've got people's attention.
Yeah, and you only get hate. This is not my quote. This is James Smith, I think. Who's it? I don't know. But you only get hate from people who are below you. People
Exactly.
shoot it up, effectively.
Exactly.
So
Any certain individuals out there who may be in, like, the, I don't know, say, like, the Royal Marines preparation niche, who are firing a lot of shots at other, Royal Marine prep coaches, just, take that on board and have a think about what that might say about you as a person.
Yeah, and start providing value to your audience, because that's what they're there for. They follow you so that you follow through on the promise that you'll provide them with stuff. Give, and then ask.
Basically, there's enough to go round for everyone.
Yeah.
So why are you trying to steal food off someone else?
It's not even that. Like, it's a fucking fair playing field, level playing field. And like I was saying this to you before, if someone's in the market, and this goes for anything, so you've got two people who are vying for business, okay, and then you've got a market or a niche of potential clients for those individuals. People are going to choose whoever they want to work with, not maybe on a little bit on credibility, maybe a little bit on credentials, whatever. Mostly on who I like, because they've both done similar thing. I don't know the difference between the two. Maybe like fucking James Smith and Joe Wicks. For me, I'm trying to lose fat as a 38-year-old woman. I'm going to look at both of their content. I'm going to go, who do I like the most? Who do I vibe with? Whose values do I align with the most? Who do I think is going to hold me accountable or whatever? And I'm going to choose them. So James Smith or Joe Wicks going after each other doesn't make a lot of sense, but them providing value to the audience, me as a 38-year-old woman, it means I'm going to choose that person because they've provided me more value for free. So then I'm going to be like, okay, if he's giving me this much for free, what happens if I pay him? That's the value exchange. But anyway, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments. First of all, if you can guess any certain individuals. Second of all, if you agree as potentially people who are in that niche or in that market, potential clients. Let us know if you agree with our kind of stance on things, and also let us know if you think we're adhering to what we're actually saying, or if we're just chatting shit.
Yeah, we're massive hypocrites.
Yeah, maybe we are. But
this helmet of the week has been quite kind of coach specific, hasn't it? So it might be interesting to hear from some punters.
That's what I mean.
What they think.
Yeah, potential athletes.
Because you've seen behind the curtain now.
What we think about it, and this is what we'll always be honest. That's part of it. Anyway.
Back on to the main topic of the conversation, the final 5 lessons that you learned during your time in basic training at Lympstone.
Yeah, as a Royal Marine. I should probably mention that a few times today.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, you were a Royal Marine, so
yeah.
We can't emphasise that enough.
Yeah, I don't know if you know that. So, for audio listeners, I'm now passing the phone over again to Eddie, and he's going to choose it at random.
I like this, you've sorted it.
Yeah.
To the final 5.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to have to try and sift.
I did a little bit of prep.
I thought I was going to have to ad hoc sift through them in my mind.
Get the same ones in.
Right, we'll start with this one because we've both said this a few times this week, so I feel like it's quite pertinent to us. Right. Do the basics well.
Yeah. So that little soundbite there is probably going to provide you with more value and and a better lesson than anything else in this podcast. If you take anything away from this, doing that is going to yield more results than anything else.
In every walk of life.
In every walk of life. So most people get tied up in the new fancy meal plan, the fancy movement. I can do the big, the new fat loss drive, the new diet, whatever. When they just miss out on and don't adhere to all the basics. And by the way, the basics are hard to adhere to consistently. And that's why most people think, I'm going to go and do strict paleo, or I'm going to do strict keto, or something that's been marketed hard, whatever. And you see that and you think, that must be good. But actually, if you were you'd get better results just peeling it back a bit and going, okay, I'm going to eat my 5 fruit and veg, I'm going to hit my protein, I'm going to hit my steps. The basics, by the way, these are fucking things that you should be doing anyway. I'm going to progressively overload in the gym. You would get much better results if you did those things consistently rather than keep dotting around and fucking going to the new fad or the new thing or whatever. And that was a fitness example, but there's examples everywhere.
But getting fit and healthy isn't complicated. And like you were saying, they're basic, but they're hard to adhere to because it's boring.
Yeah.
People want excitement, and unfortunately, it's not that exciting.
Geezers need excitement, as the streets famously said. I'm in a business coaching thing now. If people that aren't aware of this, have we said that? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Anyway,
we've disclosed that.
Working with a bloke called Phil Graham. You won't know if you're not in the fitness industry, but anyway. And they keep saying exactly the same thing. So again, with it relating to everything, so we just had it in a fitness, getting in shape context. It's true with business as well. So the boring stuff of organic reach out for clients, fucking programming, good delivery, all that boring stuff is the stuff that's the biggest return on investment in terms of your business. And it's the same for every business, but for mine especially, the sexy stuff like, I don't know, the new social media strategy or the new story poll that you can put up, and maybe that's going to give it. But all that sort of stuff is great, but it's never going to be as high in terms of return on investment as the basic stuff. And as a military training example, I'll try and give, if the basics in terms of, like, if we take like shooting for example, which we've both now done recently, just getting into the right position and having the right trigger pull is pretty much the bulk of it. Everything else outside of that, in terms of like what equipment you're wearing, what all these kinds of nuances that can change, are not that important. The 3 or 4 basic things, again done really well, are the thing that makes the difference. And actually, at a special forces level, this is what people always say. Obviously, anecdotally for me because I wasn't there, but at a special forces level, people always say the only difference between them and people who are tier 2, tier 3, so Marines and Paras, for example, is the fact they can do the basics better, so they can reload faster. Reload's basic, it's just they're better at it. They can shoot basic, but they can do it better. They can communicate more effectively. Communication's basic, but they can do it well. So if you can do the basics well, you will just be so much further ahead. And the only way to get, like we were saying before, to get good at the basics is to be consistent with them. 10,000 hour rule.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've got to ingrain the habit.
Yeah.
I spend most of my time with my one-to-one clients trying to emphasise the fact that what they need to do on their end isn't necessarily hard. They just need to be consistent with it.
Yeah.
That's basically 90% of my job.
Yeah, effectively.
Is trying to get people to remember to do basic things like walk each day.
Mental.
Yeah.
If we look at like what you've got to do to get from really out of shape to like moderately in shape, like everything is so basic. So if we look at getting in shape, in terms of like in the gym, getting stronger, building muscle, all these, it's like 8 or 9 movements.
Yeah.
Literally. But done really, really well, executed properly, adhered to consistently with progression. That's it. Whereas, how many movements are there? There's fucking like thousands.
I fall into this trap, I think, as a coach when I'm programming, because obviously you've got to strike that balance between kind of like effective programming, but equally it needs to have that slight variation in it, so the adherence is still there. Because if it's just carbon copied each week, clients will get bored of it.
Yeah, this is it.
So, but then sometimes you dig out too much trying to make it like all the bells and whistles, and you move away from the actual fundamentals.
Exactly that. So this is the art really to programming, certainly for general population clients who maybe don't need quite as much regimented stuff, because they're going to improve regardless because they haven't got a training age. So if you're programming, like you say, always different stuff like CrossFit does, it's really good for keeping people engaged, because they're doing different things every time they're in the gym, which is fantastic from a beginner's point of view. And they will see some like beginner gains, and that's what shit coaches do, because they can't back it up with any logic, and they can't, like articulate why someone's doing maybe the same thing for 4 weeks. Shit coaches will just give them different, and a client that doesn't really know what they're doing will be like, this is amazing.
Oh, this is, and then from the coach's end, it's like, oh, well, my client loves the gym.
Yeah.
Superb.
Exactly.
But then, like, further down the line, when the beginner gains dry up,
There's
they
no progress.
they haven't got a foot to stand on, have they?
No. This is where CrossFit falls down, in my opinion.
And that's my biggest bugbear, because there's no kind of progressive overload in
constantly varied.
Yeah.
It just goes completely against traditional strength and conditioning parameters. People actually wanted to hear you gob off about CrossFit a bit more. That was in the script.
Did they? Well, we could do a CrossFit revisited.
Yeah, we can. Maybe I'll change some of my views. Probably have, actually. I've stopped doing it. So, but yeah, it's such a big point, and but again, it's basic. But everything you will, if you identify things in your daily life that move the needle, wherever it is you're trying to go, in terms of fitness or in terms of if you've got a business or if you're at work, anything. If you identify what have I done this week that actually moved the needle in the right direction, I guarantee it's something basic. It's going to bed on time, or it's getting up and getting in the sun, or it's getting up and walking, or whatever it is that pushed your energy that day. If you do it, what's this week that's probably moved the needle in the right direction?
So I've been slowly becoming aware of this for a long time, but if I don't get up and get my morning walk in immediately when I wake up, so I don't get my steps in, don't give myself that time to kind of process what I'm going to do in the day, and I don't get any UV exposure in, if I go straight to my desk, my productivity goes absolutely toilet.
Yeah.
It's non-existent. And
that's something you know as well, so you know the value in getting up and getting outside. You know that in terms of your circadian rhythm. Intellectually, you know that, but being able to enact it every morning is the thing that's hard.
When you first wake up, you're very impulsive. Yes. And we go back to the chimp paradox here. The chimp is at the wheel as soon as you wake up.
Yeah, I'm terrible with this.
So the better you can get at getting the computer on board when you wake up, the more beneficial it'll be.
Yeah, so I'm terrible at this, and I preach this to my clients, and this is one of those things where it's an example of me knowing the information but not being able to implement it quite yet. So obviously I know that having your phone next to your bed is terrible, because as soon as you wake up you reach for it and you've got instantly someone telling you how shit you are or whatever it is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is great. As soon as you wake up, that's exactly what you want. Or someone's unsubscribed from your program, you're like, oh, brilliant, sweet. Exactly what you want to wake up to. Equally, sometimes you have like 4 people subscribe to your program, you're like, oh, sweet. But it doesn't always happen like that, so you should...
Well, that's too much of a roller coaster. Exactly. You can't rely on that.
Yeah, exactly. So what I should do, and I know this, is not have my phone in my room, have an alarm clock, not touch my phone for the first hour, because then I'm up, I've done whatever I need to do in the morning, and then I can tackle my emails or whatever it is with a clear head. That's what I know I need to do, and that's what I recommend my clients to do. But whether I do it or not at the moment is remains to be seen.
It's like do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah, it's always the way. You get people who know all this information but actually just fall foul of it, and often they know so much about it because they're shit at it and they've had to educate themselves so much on it.
Yeah.
So anyway.
But yeah, if you take one thing from this podcast, and you don't necessarily have to be preparing for the military, just do whatever you're trying to get better at, do the basics well.
Yeah, and it's such an easy thing to remember as well, which I think is nice. You know?
Yeah,
it's because it's fucking 4 words, whatever. Yeah, so that's number 1, and we've riffed on that for a while, but we've got some good stuff out of that.
Yeah, so we'll move on to gain some traction.
Mm-hmm.
There's a time to put your head down and switch off. This is very pertinent because you got told that you overtrained this week. So.
Oh yeah, that's probably. I'm probably thinking about it in the opposite way, to be honest, than you've read that. I meant it from the fact.
As in, like grafting.
Yeah. So sometimes, for an example, I was thinking of was like a really long yomp, where you're in pain, but the pain isn't getting any worse necessarily. So you're in a certain amount of pain on a yomp, right? But if that locks, well, it's just 2s. But it's fine.
For all the listeners out there, you now know Harry Shepherd's passcode.
Yeah, so if you're phone in a week, so it's fine. Fuck you all. Anyway, so if you're in a yomp, big heavy backpack, walk for hours, it might be 8, 10, 12 hours, really long amount of time. So from 0 to an hour, the pain increases. Okay, at an hour, the pain stays steady.
I like this. This is like yomping 101.
Yeah, it is. No, I've found this out through experience. But yeah, 0 to 1 hour, you're getting worse. It's like, this is fucking horrendous. If it keeps compounding like this, I'm fucked because I've got 12 hours. If you get to an hour, that is where the pain sits. and it stops getting worse, and you just kind of, oh fucking that's a bit shit, but like you can get through it. What you have to do at that point is try and switch your brain off, because if you're thinking about anything like how much your shoulders hurt, how long you've got to go, how long you've been going for, where where your rifle strap's digging in, if you're like aware of cognitively all these things, it just makes them worse and worse and worse.
Well,
and
just
they then compound.
Eats away in your mind.
Well,
doesn't
it draws attention to them. So as soon as you think, fucking hell, my feet are hurting, I've got blisters because I fucking didn't buy any red on socks. And then your attention is drawn to the blisters, and then you fuck, because for the next hour until you stop for a break, you're always thinking about that, and mentally then it gets worse. It's just like a good example is, when you're a kid and you fall over in it and like cut yourself,
Yeah.
and you don't realise it's hurting until you look at it.
Mm.
And that happens a lot,
Especially with young children, when they don't know how to kind of process their emotions fully. When babies fall over,
that's what I mean.
They fall over and they're not necessarily injured, but because they're kind of like slowly being conditioned, thinking, oh well, if I fall over, I should be upset.
Association, yeah.
So there's that delay where they fall over, they get up, they dust themselves off, and they almost tell themselves, oh no, I should be upset because I've fallen over it.
But it's normally that they've seen the wound. So if like, they fall over, they've like grazed themselves, whatever, they'll get up, and then they'll look down, and then they'll start crying, because then they're drawing attention to the, oh shit, now I'm hurt. So it's the same thing, just extrapolated out until you're 24 going through Marines training. But there is a time, and this is more for physical stuff, but it can be used for like maybe staying up writing reports or staying up writing stuff for uni. There is a time just to grind and just to switch off and just go.
Right, so how can we give the listeners something actionable to put in place here? What did you use as a technique when you're on a yomp? How did you go to your happy place? What was your happy place?
Good question. That's a very good question. I always would think of the end state. So you'd always know you'd always know kind of when the exercise on the macro was going to end, and I'd have something in my head that I was going to do at that moment. So like getting some scran, getting a Chinese in or whatever, that I would tie a lot of my optimism to. So I'd be like, okay, well, fucking hell, this is shit, but in 6 days I get to just let loose and chill out and have Chinese or whatever I'm having, and I'd just build that up and build that kind of picture in my mind of what it'll feel like having achieved what I need to achieve, sitting down and having a Chinese, versus the opposite, having wrapped and not achieved what I want to achieve, still having the Chinese, and then I feel shit.
That's like positive visualizations, isn't it?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a pretty common thing used in sports psychology.
Yeah.
The idea is you picture yourself at the finish line, not you rapping.
Yes, but you picture yourself with the achievement in mind. So there's always two realities you can picture. One is, you're at the end, but you haven't quite achieved what you want to achieve because of whatever reason you've throttled back, or you've wrapped on your nav, or you're injured or whatever. And the other one is you've achieved everything you want to achieve, and you've achieved the goal you set out to achieve. And then if you can tie yourself to that one and think that's the only metric for success, that's the only thing I care about having, and then you can remove yourself a little bit from the situation and try and build that picture of, okay, I'm going to order number 42, which is like fried rice or whatever. I mean, like, you get really detailed into it, and then you take your mind off everything that's happening in the moment. You start to run through your fucking Chinese order in your head, which is just a technique, but you can take that into, I guess, academically. Could you use that kind of thing where you've got a paper in for fucking...
It's a lot different because it's kind of like, it's not physical pain, it's like cognitive frustration.
Yeah, I know.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it's difficult.
And it's kind of more pronounced and prolonged.
Mm.
So like, let's take like a dissertation,
for
example, or like a thesis.
Well, I've never written one, so yeah.
Yeah, but it's like 15,000 words or whatever, but because it's so protracted over months, the pain is less pronounced immediately in like a specific time frame.
Yeah.
So, so if you're on like a yomp or something, the pain is, I don't know, drawn out over a few hours or something. Yeah. So that's going to be a lot more pronounced in your mind.
Yeah.
Unless you leave your thesis till like the deadline.
This is what I was thinking about.
Yeah, so
You're cramming.
So because I've got good time management, I have no experience in this.
Okay, yeah.
Because I'd always do any essay or like dissertation well before it was due in.
Yeah, as you can imagine, my admin probably won't be that good. And, I would end up cramming.
Yeah, but so like anecdotally through people I know who are like on my course and stuff, mates, like if they leave it till the last minute, yeah, that is exactly the same.
Yeah, so you have to picture yourself handing in something you're happy with, rather than you've maybe, I don't know, got distracted or you haven't put 100% attention into it. Some you know, your mind's wandering, whatever. You haven't been focused, and then you hand it in anyway because you've got to, because it's a submission date, and then you're not maybe happy with your effort. So I think that's probably the carryover, and I can relate it to this week at work, like having shitloads of fucking programming to do, and knowing that Saturday morning I don't want any overlaid. I don't want anything that's gone over into the weekend. So I know that in the week I need to have decent time management. I need to have good distraction management, because I'm going to get all this shit done, and then I don't have to do anything on the weekend.
I literally said this to myself this morning as well. I dangled myself the carrot of Saturday off.
Yeah.
A rare Saturday off.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, well, if I crack on today, then I know my prize at the end of it.
That's it. Yeah, so that's kind of an example where you can take that into something that's completely unrelated. Unfortunately, I've got sales course tomorrow morning, but anyway.
No rest for the wicked, lad. Right, so we've had do the basics well,
Yeah.
and there's a time to put your head down and switch off.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go along the route. Shall I save the funny one till last?
Whatever.
Right, okay, yeah, we'll do.
You're the captain of the ship.
So we'll do work hard for other people, and they will work hard for you.
Yeah, I feel like this is maybe only pertinent with the military.
Is this not kind of coming from the Jack point that we
Yeah.
covered last week, but from the opposite direction?
Yeah, a little bit, I think. So the big thing I thought about when writing that was my experience between being in a unit in the Royal Marines versus being in the workplace at a civilian gym. So there's like two things, right? So there's a huge culture in the Marines of, like I said last week, don't be Jack, dig out for everyone else, kind of work hard within the team, and then everyone else work hard for you, and it kind of works that way, because then the team as a whole unit there is much more productive because everyone's working for a combined aim. That's cool. So like, for example, when you're cleaning the rooms and stuff for inspections, everyone's digging out, everyone's knows their job, and they're getting around stuff and it all works fine, because they've had to do it for 5-6 years, so everyone's into that routine. In the civvy gym, this wasn't the reality, and I had a little bit of an adjustment period here, because I was thinking, cause I would do something, I'd like, for example, cover someone's shift on a Saturday or something like that, and expecting for that to be reciprocated, and there's no like loyalty system there, there's no integrity system there. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it, because I'm in my opinion, digging out for the team, because this person needs to go off for whatever reason. I was like, yeah, I'm free, I'll do it. I'd always be the first to volunteer. But then I thought, when I said the same thing in the group chat, oh, I came on cover my Saturday, tumbleweeds. I was like, right, this is maybe not how it works in Civvy Street.
Do you think that's what a lot of veterans suffer with when they come out of the military?
Yeah.
That kind of
just a chasm in terms of what they expect from people. Certainly, if you've been part of like the Paras or the Marines or something like, maybe SF or something like that, where you've got a high standard within a team, within a unit, and then you go to a environment that's not that. And mate, it's not like that was a high functioning coaching team. It wasn't like they're all shit houses. They're just not bred into that, and it's not part of the ethos of the business.
No, and I think unless you have been involved in, say, like the military or like maybe top level sport, team sport, you are pushed down a very kind of individualistic path in life.
Yeah. Square yourself away.
Square yourself away and then worry about others second. I mean, it's kind of one of the tenets of capitalism, to be honest.
Right. Yeah. Fair.
So if you, like I said, so having you come from the military background, you obviously kind of very reliant on the kind of camaraderie, and teamship that comes with that environment, and then if you're put in kind of the vacuum of that, it's going to be quite stark.
Well, yeah, you can just notice the difference straight away, and it can be very frustrating, because in the military example, if someone doesn't pull their weight, not only is there a big effect from that, but there's in like peacetime there's a direct like disciplinary for it. So like those people, if they're not doing it, will get punished and they'll be fucking, you know, they'll be in. But it's not the same for for a civil environment, because there's no like predetermined rule that you have to kind of do it, or, you know, unwritten rule that you have to work hard for each other. If it's not done, there's no punishment for it.
I have noticed this a lot, to be honest, because I obviously hang around with a lot of people that either are or have been like in the military.
Yeah.
And I noticed that like ex-military personnel get triggered so easily by people that basically rap.
Yeah.
Because I think it's born out of frustration of, if we was like still in a military environment, you'd get a fucking thrashing for that.
100%. Yeah.
So they're almost annoyed that they can get
But
away
they're not
with
getting
it.
a thrash.
Yeah.
Absolutely. People rock up for work late. I'm like,
What's going on here?
You should have lost your weekend for that. You can't fucking lose your weekend in Civvy Street, can you? So they're just like, oh, don't do that again. You know.
But it can almost
not
lead.
very good.
I guess it depends on your outlook, but it could almost lead to bitterness on your end, because it's like, I spent 5 years getting bollocked for doing something like that.
Yeah.
And if I was just in Civvy Street, I could get away with it scot free.
That happened to me for a little bit, until I sort of had to realise it's not the same.
The readjustment period.
Yeah. Well, definitely. Like, I remember Sam, one of our mates, was saying he got pissed on the weekend or whatever, had work on the Saturday morning, rocked up like an hour late. I was like, he didn't get anything for that. And he was like, nah, I just worked an extra hour on the back end of the day. I was like,
In
what?
fact, and depending on which kind of civvy work environment you're in, you could actually gain respect from that. Do you know what I mean? If it's kind of like, if it's like a sales environment,
Oh, yeah,
where it's like kind of like a lot
Yeah.
of bravado going around, bit like fucking kind of a lot of dick swinging. If you turn up hungover, you get
still close the sale.
still close a sale and then hang around for an hour afterwards. You're on your way to a promotion there
Yeah, that's it.
in a second-hand car dealership.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true. Having just bagged off, like
Yeah.
No, but that obviously a little bit depends on your hierarchy in the military. But if you've rocked up a bit late and you're a bit shiters, and you've just bagged off, if your hierarchy are geezers, they might love that.
Yeah, turn up to work with stank dick.
Yeah.
Get the
Breath smelling a box.
Yeah, getting the lads to sniff.
Actually, we'll shower before work. This is standards. And that's the other thing, hygiene. Fucking hell, we'll get into that if you want. But hygiene standards in the Marines certainly are very, very, very high. Like, you shower like fucking 4 times a day. Not very good for the water bill, but it is the case. And
I can't be good for your skin either, though.
Swear,
It's
well.
almost too clean,
I know.
especially for your hair. You know, you're not supposed to like overwash your hair.
Yeah, I don't think it's a major concern in the Marines.
Imagine that.
Corporal.
Sorry, Corporal, I've got an itchy scalp.
Corporal, I'm worried about my hair quality. Can I skip this shower?
Corporal, I think I've got dandruff. Can you have a look? Fucking cunt.
No, because the reason it's certainly in training, in like foundation, they're trying to drill it into you. You'll get up, shower, you'll do fizz, and then shower, and then before evening scran, you'll shower again because you're probably been thrashed, and then before bed you shower.
So when we were away travelling, you started to pull me up on my poor hygiene. And I've not got poor hygiene.
Nah,
by the
you
way.
haven't.
I was still showering twice a day, but by your standards, I'm a dirty bastard apparently.
Yeah, you can't get in your pit in fizz rig, lad. This is the problem.
But I live in fish rig.
I know, but it was used fizz rig. There's all these little nuances you see, and they were getting off topic. But coming back to it, it was a stark difference in terms of my experience in, and the ASG wasn't a fucking shining example of this really, but it, you know, compared to a civvy environment, was massive. And even like taking the bin. So this is a good example actually. In the gym, in the civvy gym, there would always be one coach left over. So you would always finish your sessions by like 7:30. Gym's open till 8:30. So there'd always be one coach that have to like kind of work on the gym floor, but not have to do anything for like an hour, which is a bit shit. But anyway, so that coach is effectively being seen off because they've got to now work without being paid. So that, what I always used to do was make sure that I'd done all the bins, done all the shit jobs they'd have to do when closing up. So that when 8:30 comes, they can just turn the lights off, gone, which is good because it means they haven't got to spend an extra 10 minutes doing anything. When I was the last bloke, I was expecting the same detail.
Yeah, he wasn't reciprocated, was it?
No. And I was like, this is bullshit, because then it finished at 8:30, and then I'm back in at 6:30 in the morning. I'm like, this is brilliant, because now we'll stay till 9 doing all your fucking admin.
Yeah.
Well, it's not their admin, but
Did
my
you-
opinion, it's their admin.
So did you ever pull anyone up on this? Or did
No.
it always just go under fucking bated breath?
No, to be honest, I'm a bit of a shithouse, so I didn't do that. But I was actually told by the bloke who onboarded me, the supervisor, whatever. He's a good bloke. He was like a ex semi-pro rugby player, so it's that kind of sporting environment. So he was kind of good with it. He was like, if you ever see it, people fucking not adhering to the standards or whatever,
Pulling their weight.
fucking pull them up for it. I don't care if they've been in 20 years, pull them up. But I felt a bit shit because I was like, as well as a thing in the military with like sprog routine where the new bloke doesn't fucking say anything. And so I was like, I've been there 6 months. I was like, no way. I'm calling him out for he's been here 20 years.
What we can learn from this is you've effectively been institutionalised.
But I haven't. I'm so good compared to a lot of people. With that,
Yeah, I guess there are levels to this.
100%. And you're lucky, mate, because
Because you could
If
be
you'd
even
been-
because you could have been even more jaded.
if you'd have been in from 16 till 24, 23, because you haven't even had that adjustment period of college and growing up and becoming your kind of own person, you've gone straight from school into that. You're socialised by the military.
I always think this about kind of like toffs, you know, that kind of from the age of like 5 or 7 are in boarding school,
Yeah.
which is very militaristic anyway.
Yeah.
And then they go straight from there to like Sandhurst. And then they stay in the military for their entire career and retire at like 60, 70.
Yeah.
They've basically spent their entire life in a military environment.
Yeah, it's crazy.
How do they then go to retirement where you're just basically untethered?
With no routine.
With
no
no
structure.
routine. You must basically die in a uniform.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd hate,
You have
you'd
to.
hate it.
You'd have to either stay in as long as you can and hope that you drop dead, or find something that resembles the military after you've left to just kind of keep up
It's
appearances.
the problem with retirement anyway, isn't it? We can get into this on another day, but like the lack of structure, purpose, routine, all these kinds of things are gone, and you've had that for 50 years. So it's difficult, but you know, it is a thing where that's why so many veterans do struggle, because there's so much difference between the two worlds, and if you're fully in on the military side of things, then it can be really difficult to transition over and be fully in on civilian side of things, because things just aren't the same.
Yeah,
And it's little nuances like that are different.
right. So that was 3, was it not?
Mhm.
So number 4 then.
Indeed.
We'll say the one with the laughing emoji after it's till last. We'll end on a high.
Okay.
So this one is leadership starts with listening.
Okay. I forgot I even wrote that. Yes.
Well, let's hope you can fucking remember it, because you're now going to explain it to the listeners.
Yeah, so leadership starts with listening. So it just means that I've been exposed to a lot of officers, clearly in training. There was like 3 that went through. There was a couple through the units, and a lot of people in leadership positions, whether it was officers, whether it was like sergeants, lads who'd got the in command tapes, whatever. So there's a lot of different styles of leadership, because some people just aren't predisposed to that role. And the people who always had the best respect from the lads and the best kind of result in terms of whatever they were trying to do, whether it was like create like an orders routine or a section attack, or even just trying to clean the block in one fell swoop. Going in, even in a military environment, going in and being an authoritarian and just being, you know, this is my way, this is how it's done, this is like, it gets stuff done, but you don't get that extra mile from people, because people are threaders with it. So people are like, okay, I'll do it just because you're in the position of authority, but I don't like it. And
No,
so
it's the old adage of like respect is not bought
yeah,
or demanded.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
or demanded is correct. So like if you're a new officer coming in, especially to a troop, because everyone's a marine, to a recruit troop is different, because everyone's a recruit and you're like a rung below, and you haven't got really a leg to stand on. But if they're just completely straight in with all their own ideas and they're implementing everything and they're not listening to anything that the sergeants or the corporals are saying, you're a bit like, fucking hell, whoa, calm down a bit, mate, because we had a good thing going here, or we thought we did, and then you've come in and just changed everything, and now everyone's fuming with that officer. And so whatever he says, then they're going to do it, because like I say, they've got to by fucking law, but they're not going to be happy about doing it. And if they're not happy with doing it, they're only going to go as far as he tells them to. and they're not going to go the extra mile. And you only get really, really good performance with people going the extra mile. So if the opposite is true, where maybe you take everyone's opinion in, even if you don't fucking listen to it, and even if you don't take anything from it, if you let the person talk and feel heard, it's huge.
Is this not just an example of like a growth in a fixed mindset through the lens of leadership?
Yeah, it could be sort of.
Because if you're a leader with a very fixed mindset, you're not willing to onboard any new information, i.e. listen to the lads, take on board what they think might work. Whereas if you've got a growth mindset, you're going to be more open to new experiences, new opinions, new perspectives.
Yeah. And like I say, sometimes it can be a bit of smoke and mirrors. Like if you're a really good leader and they know that they've got to do it a certain way or they've got to do it my way, I know that. But I'm just going to get everyone's opinion anyway so that people feel heard and so that people feel valued. Then when they're like, okay, I've heard everything, but we're going to do it this way because of this, this and this. Then people are happier with that set of orders. And they might go, actually, well, I like it, I'm going to give you the extra 5%. And if a troop of 30 blokes give you the extra 5%, the return is fucking huge.
That's a basic kind of fundamental human necessity though, isn't it? Like the humans want to feel valued.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you can lean on that lever as a leader, why wouldn't you?
Well,
as opposed to make people feel like shit.
Tell you why. An insecure leader who feels maybe challenged or threatened by other people exposing their views or maybe... So if I am not 100% sure that I'm the right person for this job, I might hear someone, or I might not ask for someone's opinion because I might think that their opinion is going to be actually smarter than mine, and they might undo or undervalue what I'm going to actually put in place. Happens not a lot in the Marines, luckily, because the journey to become an officer is so difficult. But occasionally, what happen in a troop, in a unit, is an officer will come in, a new officer will come in having been in the military for about 18 months, 2 years, not really done anything apart from training. They'll then be in a command position on top of a sergeant who's done 16, 18 years, been to war, been all this sort of stuff, earned loads of respect. So if that officer comes in and isn't willing to listen to that sergeant, you can imagine the friction.
Yeah.
Because the officer's done fuck all.
Well,
you're 22.
I'll just go down nothing. Like a lead balloon, won't it?
Yeah, you've done nothing in the military, and you're trying to override the views of this bloke who's been to Afghan. He's done all this experience, which is so much more valuable than just doing training. And so if that isn't listened to, then that's instantly just...
Is that I know you're getting off topic here. Is that not one of the kind of the stifling things about how kind of a military hierarchy works? The fact that you could get a bloke who's like kind of like at the level of sergeant who served like 20 years, realistically should be a higher rank but isn't, and then you get like a sprog who's like been to uni and had a private education, and after 2 years of training he's just like
above him.
He's just like halfway up the ladder already.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit broken, isn't it? But oftentimes sergeants wouldn't like an officer's job anyway, because they do fulfil a different role.
Right. Okay.
While they're still both high up, the sergeant's very much more hands on with the blokes. The officer's much more a planning role, admin in an office. You know.
Right. Okay. I see. So it's more like interpersonal skills as like a sergeant.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're like one kind of with You're
kind of like a line manager almost, and then the officer's the one above that, whatever that is, general manager or something. But yeah, I think it's definitely a pertinent point, because if you're just not willing to take on the information from the people around you, certainly if those people are more experienced in whatever it is than you, because everyone's got a different set of experiences, everyone has something to offer, so, well, most people. So if you're not willing to listen to that, the end result is going to be worse.
Well, we always say, don't trust a coach who doesn't kind of invest in their own education.
Yeah.
Goes the same for leadership, surely.
How do you mean?
You know, don't believe in leaders who aren't willing to take on other opinions.
Yeah, true.
That's the leadership equivalent, isn't it, really?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's probably pretty accurate. It's one of those things, if you just think you know everything, you fucking definitely don't, because you haven't been open to education.
Well, that goes for everything in life, isn't it? Like, you should always kind of give people a wide berth who think that they know everything.
Yeah.
Because ultimately they probably know fuck all.
Coming back to our point with Helmet of the Week.
Yeah, it's like the Dunning-Kruger bias, isn't it? They probably actually have exposed themselves to a very small amount of knowledge, and they've overemphasised that in their mind as now knowing everything about that topic.
It's like Ash was saying yesterday. Like people are scared to say they don't know.
Yeah, but that's weird though, because in higher education, so like his background, you're basically bred to caveat everything that you kind of publish or write with, but we can't be certain.
Yeah, but more research needs to be done.
Yeah, effectively, and that's what you caveat everything with.
Yeah,
Because it's true.
of course it is. No one can know everything or know anything really to a point.
Even the most definitive research that has clear findings will.
There'll be some sort of you could find something.
Yeah,
You could
and
find
they'll address all of the biases. Because there's always bias in everything.
Yeah.
So you'll do your best to kind of acknowledge all of your...
Mitigate it a little
mitigate
bit,
it, and then you'll say further research is needed. Because you can always do more.
Yeah, but these days people are scared of saying, I don't know, because it comes across... Everyone's got to be an expert in what they need to convey, right? So if you're, again, the example like coaching, so like if you're looking for a coach and you ask them a question, they go, I don't know.
Yeah, well, we've come full circle here. This is quite good because it brings us back onto our original helmet of the week, doesn't it?
Exactly.
This idea, because coaches that shit on other coaches also more often than not have the trait of I know everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is why they feel compelled to shit on other people.
Yeah, and again, if you think you know everything, you're not going to be quick to seek out education.
Yeah, which is a red flag, as we've discussed.
Anyway. Yeah.
Right, okay, yeah, we've covered them comprehensively. Let's end on a funny.
Yeah, okay.
So, the final of the 10 lessons you learnt down at Lympstone is never trust an officer's navigation.
Yeah, and this is a bit pot calling kettle black because I'm terrible at navigation.
Because as we do know, Harry Shepherd's navigation admin is toilet.
Yeah, it's not great. But officers are renowned for not being trusted with navigation.
Oh, right, why is this?
I don't know.
For sure that they should have that fucking squared away.
Yeah.
Especially if they're desk based a lot of the time as well.
It's because they're
That's a lot of hands-on time with maps. That is.
Yeah, there's a little running joke that officers are a bit dumb, a bit dense in terms of academically smart, maybe not street smart. I think that's probably where it comes from. Because normally you're one, not the other. Do you know what I mean? Normally you're academic and then your street smarts aren't there, and then the other way around is true as well. Normally there's one or the other. And stripies or sergeants, because they've got loads of experience, again, like coming back to that, they'll have everything have everything swept up because they've been in for 18 years, they've done it fucking countless of times, and even if something goes wrong, they know how to deal with that because they've dealt with it before 10 times. But the officer thing is, the example is on Hunter's Moon, which is an exercise you still do in week 10, I believe. It's the first time you carry any weight, so coming back to what I was talking about before, first time you yomp for a significant amount of time, and it is significant, it's about 8 hours, and it's pretty heavy in terms of the jump from not carrying anything to carrying something. And so you're hanging out basically. And it was about 4 or 5 hours into our yomp, and it were led by our officer, our troop commander at the time. And we were there like, trudging along, coming back to what I was saying before with like switching off, and I was like trying to not think about it.
Just to set the scene, so you're about 4 or 5 hours in, how far have you walked?
I've no idea. Not very far. Probably.
Do they not disclose that with you? Is it more about like duration than it is distance?
Yeah, to be honest, you should probably know because you should be keeping eyes on your map. But I wasn't.
But this goes back to what you were saying about just go to your happy place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was in my happy place. I didn't have a clue. But you probably cover about 3k an hour depending on the terrain. So you're about 15k in maybe.
Okay, yeah. So it's not really the place that you want to be told that you've been heading in the wrong direction, is it?
It's
I can only imagine that's what we're now going to get on to.
Yeah, it's a bit like, when you going down the motorway and you take the wrong fucking turn off. I do that a lot with my nav. You take the wrong turn off the motorway and then you realise your navigation's gone from like 20 minutes to get to your destination to 45 minutes to get to your destination.
There's that prolonged pause because when you're staring at your sat nav, you're waiting for the time to readjust. And it's like suddenly, extra 20 minutes. You're like, fuck.
Yeah, you've just fucked it. And this is exactly what happened. So we were going through, and normally, right, you stop every hour. So you've got watch on. Every hour, you get a 5 minute stop. You're like, oh fucking hell, 35 minutes to go, 25 to go. And we took a knee, like 25 minutes in. I was like, this ain't right. I was like, fuck it, now there we go. We're like 5 hours and 25 minutes in, and I'm like, fucking hell, what's going on here? We're taking like someone's broke their ankle or something like that, because you don't stop really for most things, unless you're crossing an obstacle. And the troop commander's at the front, and then the striker is at the back, and he called the stripey up to the front. I was like, for fuck's sake, here we go. And he has his map out on his knee. I was like, here we go again. So our 8-hour yomp turned into like 9.5 because of our mate shit admin.
Right, so let's get into the nitty gritty of this. What had he actually done wrong?
He'd just taken a wrong. It's like getting dark and a night time. So what you do on Hunter's Moon is you yomp for a period of time. You then will get in a 4-tonner or like a vehicle, drive. So you know where you are at that point because you've been there a couple of times in training. You'll drive through the night, just to a random fucking drop off point.
So where are you here on
Dartmoor?
Dartmoor, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so you get to a random drop off point, and then you just get out of this 4-tonner in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, oh shit, well, it's dark now. Can't see a man in front of my face. And you just follow the bloke in front of you. So you don't know who the fuck you are. And so he's, again, doesn't know where he is. Because he's been out of training. He's been to Dartmoor probably 4 times. 3 times more than you. The Stripey's been there about 60 million times. So he knows exactly where everything is.
He spent half his life on
yeah,
Dartmoor.
this fence is like 3k away from this. Like, he knows everything. So he's cool. So he walks in. And I don't know why he didn't stop him. Probably just to see us off, to be honest. Because he must have known he's going in the wrong direction. Probably just to see us off. So he goes
Is your Stripey carrying a Bergen as well?
Nah, not the heavy. Not the...
He's got one on, but it's full of sponge.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, literally what happened.
So he doesn't care. This is all just funny to him.
Yeah, it's all fun and games, right? Shits and gigs. So he gets to the front. You're like, oh, fuck, well, you've gone the wrong way here. And the only thing we care about is how far out have we gone. And we don't know, because they don't want to tell us. They just go, right, lads, about turn. And we just trudge back where we came and realise that we're just going in completely the wrong direction to where we were actually supposed to be going. And then you get back on track and we're in. But it was like an hour and a half more than we needed to go. So that taught me the lesson of don't trust an officer with navigation. Get the stripey to do it.
I'd have fucking lost my head at
Threaders,
that
mate.
point. Not
So
gonna lie.
threaders.
So I pride myself on my nav as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I couldn't deal with that.
That was before I found out I was a Sakura nav myself.
Oh right, okay. So
Yeah,
you were
I
still.
was still in the camp that I'm pretty good at this. So,
You got a fucking
Jesus-
rude awakening, didn't
Jesus,
you?
take the wheel. But it was terrible. And again, it's always the same when, because it happens quite often, really, when you're navigating through like the night and stuff, that you'll go off on a wrong direction. But it's not normally with £100 on your back, really.
And also, surely you will realise sooner than
Yeah.
like after 45 minutes or whatever. You say if it added 90 minutes onto your overall
Yeah.
yomp time.
Yeah.
But that's a long time to go
It's
without
so long. I think you
realising.
could run a 10k in that time.
Yeah.
Like, fucking so long. But yeah, so that was a difficult time mentally, and you never know whether they're doing it on purpose either, because they do a lot of those little mind game things where they're like, oh, you know, you think you're finished and then you. So they did it loads of times. I almost cried when this happened. Right, in our final X. So final exercise you do. I've talked about it before. You do something called killer yomp, which is about 12 hours. Heaviest burden you'll carry in training. It's horrendous. And again, the same thing though. Like first hour it gets worse. Next 11 it's the same, but it's still shit. And you're just in your happy place. But because you think it's 11 hours, you like clock watching a bit. You're like, okay. So I started at 07. It's like 5:30 now. I know I've got like about that amount of time left. And also, there's a place called Princetown, I think, on Dartmoor, where you know that's generally where you camp. And there's a big scout hut, and you can see it from miles. And you're like, okay, we're nearly there. Fucking happy days. There's like this big mast, and you're like, okay, we're marching towards that. As soon as you get there, we're good to go. And then we got there, and they were like, right lads, take your burdens off. You see that mast in the distance there? Yeah, that's where your camp is. And we were like, you fucking what? Like, this has been 12 hours. This is not the rules, bro. This is like, it's not how it works. So we then had to just fucking crack on. So we had like 5-minute break when we thought we'd finished. So you imagine you finished the marathon, and and you collapse on the floor or whatever, get your medal, and then 5 minutes later the organiser comes and goes, mate, taps you on the shoulder. You got another mile there.
Yeah, it takes the medal off you.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
oh no, finish line's actually 3 miles down that road.
Another mile. That imagine how Fred as you'd be. So they
Yeah.
do a lot of that. So I thought in that micro example, I was like, they were playing with it, but actually our officer
What's that
genuinely
called?
got
A false ending?
Yeah.
Yeah.
loads of them. So if you are going through Royal Marines training, expect a lot of fucking false endings. I'm sure they still do it. It's a really good trick to help you.
I'm pretty sure they do it just to entertain themselves more than anything.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's to make sure that you're always good to go mentally, even if you're physically done.
Yeah.
Always can crack on, because it can happen in a real life example, that can happen. Like, you can think, okay, this is done, right, I'm knackered after this firefight, we're in the reorg, we're just, getting ready for the next thing. And then you get contacted again, you have to be able to go again. Because...
Yeah, I know that they have to prove that you can do that in training, but it is so much more jarring in training because at the back of your mind you're just thinking, this is training.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? If someone's actually shooting at you in real life, you wouldn't think twice about doing it.
No, true.
But it's the old adage, like, if I had a gun to your head, you'd do it.
Yeah.
But they just have to prove that you can do it without a gun to your head.
Basically, yeah, you can self-motivate, or at least take yourself out of the fucking situation, which is what I always do. Which is probably why I didn't perform all the time, because I was fucking not thinking about anything else other than just getting through, closing my eyes and thinking, fucking, how do I get through this? But that's why, again, I think they've changed a bit of training, because they've changed it to like mandate some sleep periods. You get more sleep, you get more training, as in more like field training. I think they're trying to make it more like a learning process rather than just a fucking thrashing, because...
Yeah, well, I mean, God forbid they actually take, like, fucking science and research on board at Limpston.
Yeah.
Has anyone read Matthew Walker's book, by the way?
About 10 years away, that is, I think.
Yeah.
We actually, this is quite an interesting anecdote, I'll get into it in a second, but, yeah, I think they've changed it a bit, because before, you would just drag yourself kicking and screaming through training. You wouldn't really learn anything or onboard much information. You get to the end, you just nails. You get to the end, you're just, like, hard, and you've got that, like we were talking about last week, the perspective of, like, I can do that, so I can do the next thing. And that's basically what training's for.
Mentally, you're incredibly resilient.
Yeah.
But physically, surely, you're actually broken down.
Oh, they say it takes like 2 years to recover from training.
Yeah.
Probably
I can see that. Yeah, because 5 years later or whatever, well, even longer than that, because you did 5 years. Yeah, 7 years. You're still overtrained because you've been stuck in that perpetual cycle.
Yeah.
Of being under-rested.
Yeah, that's literally what it is. I probably need a good 2 weeks off. I could not take 2 weeks off this. No way.
You'd kill yourself.
But this Matthew Walker thing, this is the first time I heard of Matthew Walker. This is so if you don't know who Matthew Walker is, he wrote the book Why We Sleep. If you haven't read it, read it, because it's fantastic.
He's like the preeminent kind of sleep researcher in the world, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's literally like Mr. Sleep.
Yeah, he is. And his book is called Why We Sleep. It's really quite a long, sizable book, but it's fucking amazing. And it will change your outlook on sleep, because there's so many things that you don't know about it, even though it takes up a third of our life. But anyway, there's a part in the book where he's like talking about sleep and memory, and how if you have broken sleep, you'll have broken memory. And me and my mate were listening to this at the time in Norway, and we were thinking back to like these exercises where we got basically no sleep, maybe like an hour and a half a night, maybe shit quality, or it's pretty much no sleep. And we think actually, you can't actually remember that much. And so from a like training perspective, that's terrible, because you're supposed to be on board information. So we look back to like a 4-day exercise, and you can remember like bits. You can remember like getting thrashed a little bit.
Yeah, but that makes complete sense.
And that's it. But it made sense then, because we knew about it. But before that, I was like...
the science backs that up.
Yeah, I know.
Because you're so underslept.
That's
you're
why
not going to retain the information.
That's why I was getting so interested in that Matthew Walker thing, because I was like, fucking hell, this makes sense of so much that I've been through. Certainly, like in training, sleep deprivation is one of the key tools they used to use. But from like an onboarding information perspective, it's
actually
horrendous.
Really shit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. Because there's no point in having like a lecture and then having 6 hours of like room changes till like 4 a.m, getting 2 hours sleep and going again, because you haven't took any of that in. So you have like a lecture on map reading, for example, for me. Stay up all night, you may as well not have had the lecture.
Well, that's just flawed, isn't it, really?
Of course it is.
They need to rethink that.
Well,
genuinely, like on a serious level, they need to rethink how they do that. Because what's the point in being in training if you're not actually learning anything?
We talked about this, didn't we, with the physical preparation with the military? Remember in that episode, Lifting the Lid? So we talked about...
What, as in you have to basically learn to like perform suboptimally?
Well, you have to balance it, don't you? So you have to thrash them, because the job's hard, and you have to know that they've got the minerals. But you also need them to adapt. So how do you strike that balance? Same thing with the psychological thing. You have to deprive them of sleep, because it's a necessary evil, because that's what's going to happen when they're in the field. But they need to be on board information.
So would you do you compartmentalise it more? So you have like a section of training that's more learning or
kind of thing,
learning orientated, and then you have a bit that's basically dedicated to thrashing.
Potentially,
and then you have a bit at the end that like is a bit of both.
Yeah, I don't know what the rest of Navy SEAL training is, but this sounds a bit like that. So they have different periods, and everyone's heard of Hell Week. The thing that Davey Goggins did 3 times because he loves it. But it's basically a week for, I think it's 5 days, 6 days. But you sleep about 4 hours total. It's ridiculous. But to get through that, some micro trauma is nails and takes a lot.
Do you think it takes more to get through that Hell Week, even though it's shorter than it does the entire?
I don't think so, because again, linking back to what I was talking about on the Yomp, you can just project out, and it's like it's only fucking 5 days. You can do anything for 5 days.
True. I guess they both have merits, don't they? Because equally, if then they're not being thrashed so much when they're actually learning stuff, they'll remember it.
That's it. But it's almost like I always likened it to when you are getting your driver's license. You're not really learning how to drive. You're learning it a little bit, but then you actually learn how to drive after you've passed, don't you?
Yeah.
Because you do more of it. You got the experience. Different situations are appearing, whatever. In those like 20 lessons, you fucking learn the basics, how to clutch control, that kind of thing, how to be safe. Same thing in training. You learn how to be safe with a rifle. Learn how to not kill someone that you don't want to kill, and then after training, when you go to your unit, you get specialist training. You're in a much more rested state. So it's probably not the most efficient way to do it, but it does work because you still get like a decent product at the end of training, but then it gets nurtured after training. The problem will be like that happened in Afghanistan if we were in a war environment, in a war fighting time, and lads had to go straight from training to wartime. So they have, like I say, they have changed training. I don't know how much so. I have to ask Al, but don't know.
Not enough.
Not enough, I'd imagine.
You can always do more. Theme of the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. You can.
Don't rest on your fucking laurels
Don't
just because you used to do it in the 1940s.
Yeah.
Just
No
leave
one
that there.
cares what you used to do. That might be next week's theme, but we'll see.
But yeah, I'm bored of the Royal Marines. No offence.
Same.
Let's
Talk about it
talk.
all the time.
Let's talk about something else.
Yeah,
Right.
give
So
me
that
my
was
phone back because it's got my underrated overrated.
yeah, Sam.
I've
And you
forgotten.
forgot what it is. Yeah, that's
you
good.
do know that.
Right. So we'll round off this episode in what has been quite a comprehensive episode
That was it.
by all accounts, with some aspersions being cast.
Yeah, exactly. Do you want to go first? You go first.
Yeah, so my underrated overrated is Disney. It's either underrated
You've charmed me.
or it's overrated.
Well, that was fucking dreadful.
Disneyland as a concept for adults.
I thought this might be coming.
So
explain yourself.
I need to explain this. Right, so I recently, as of this morning, rediscovered an ick, and that is adults who get way into fucking Disney.
I don't even get on board
You're
with this.
effectively getting excited by a anthropomorphized mouse.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the mice. There's multiple mice, but I don't know.
Because I can get on board with theme parks. I'm not taking a dig at roller coasters, but it's all the fucking narrative,
The
and
charade.
the charade that they fucking feed into it. You know, so it can't just be, you know, thrill seeking. There's got to be an adventure, and there's got to be a journey involved.
I'll tell you why that is a good thing sometimes though. If you're a really big fan of a film, like Guardians of the Galaxy or the fucking Harry Potter like me,
It's not real.
it doesn't matter, you just be a fan of it, you fucking hat.
You see, so I can't get on board with it. So I'm too red pill for all this
Yeah,
bullshit.
you think you're too good for fiction. Anyway,
I am.
right.
Famously, I've never read a fiction book.
Famously. Right. Apparently. Anyway, if you're really into Harry Potter, go in there, and obviously the rides are good, adrenaline and all that kind of stuff. It makes you. This sounds mega gay. It makes you feel like you're in the movie.
Yeah, see
It's
how you
unbelievable.
see how you just realise how tragic it is mid sentence. Then
It's sick though. Don't give a fuck. Tragic or not tragic, it's a good lived experience. Watching Guardians of the Galaxy and then going on the Guardians, which is by the way the best fucking ride ever. On that ride with like the music and all the rest of it, the soundtrack's gone. It's fucking mint. It's sick. And that is largely for me because of the adrenaline side of things. Because you're going upside down, going down, big dips and all that sort of stuff. But I think the charade, as you said, it adds to it. I think certainly for like, so I'll give you an example. You've never been to Florida, but you've been to Paris. I've heard Paris is shit, to be honest.
Well, I saw through the bullshit when I was 4, so it can't
That's
be that
good,
good.
isn't it?
I was that enlightened at 4.
Right.
Even I saw through the bullshit of Disney.
That so I've been much more recently to Florida. I'll give you an example. The Avatar ride, which was again up there, pretty good, like probably top 3. It's unreal. Anyone who's been on it, comment, sick. But it's like effectively it's a stationary bike that you get on.
Yeah.
And it takes you through this thing, like virtual reality. It's not moving the bike, but you feel like it's fucking going. You feel like you're fucking gone. You get your stomach rolls and all this. You're not actually doing anything. But because you think you're in the, well, you don't think, but you know, you're getting immersed in the Avatar fucking world. And you're like, oh, I'm chasing this geezer. It feels like you're in there. It feels like you're there, but you're not actually moving. It's mental.
So you're on like a glorified bucking Bronco.
Yeah.
Staring at a TV screen.
Yeah, exactly that. However, because it's not a bike. It's like a bike, but you've seen Avatar, haven't you?
No.
What?
I don't like fantasy, I don't like fiction.
Right, I can't get on board with this. This is bollocks.
Cancel
the podcast.
Why would I spend fucking 3 hours of my time watching little blue men fight each other?
Because it's fucking funny. It's good. It's good. It's good.
Is it though? Let's deconstruct
entertainment. You don't have to deconstruct everything.
But this is my problem. I do, which is why I can't get on board with Disneyland.
That's your problem. Sounds like a you. But anyway, so in Avatar, I'll enlighten you a little bit. In Avatar, you basically fly around on these fucking big horses, right? On these big fucking massive horses. You fly around on these things,
And they're real.
Anyway, they're not real. They could be. Who knows? Anyway, you sat on these fucking horses, mate, on the ride, and they've made them breathe. So they've made them like warm and expand in between. It's mental, mate. So you feel like you're actually on a living creature, but you're just on a fucking little ride. It's mental.
Why don't you just go pony trekking?
It's shit, that, isn't it?
Why? Because that's an actual real horse.
Yeah, exactly. This is the point, because you can't get that experience anywhere else. You can't get that experience by a horse. Horses don't fly.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So when you're on that ride, you're not
making the same point here. We're just coming at it from different angles.
Fundamentally, this is the crux of my argument. Disney is for people that can't handle reality.
The crux of Eddie's argument is he's got no imagination.
I have got imagination. I've got such an imagination that I can't help but look through all of the bullshit and think this isn't real.
That's not imagination. That's just seeing everything for what it is.
But see, like the problem with Disney is they just put it all out in front of you. The real imagination is thinking for yourself. So you're just being
painting your own.
You're just living someone else's creativity. I see my own.
Right. So you're making your own Disneyland. You know that. Where's that gonna be? Fucking Cayford.
My happy place.
Cayford Disneyland.
Which all up here, mate. My theme park.
Eddie's happy place was going to go to on the Raff Ridge, 9 mile, 5 mile.
9 mile, the fuck yeah. Don't want him digging out an extra 4 miles.
Yeah,
Fucking be hanging.
Anyway, I think I can't. Unfortunately, that's our first one we haven't agreed on.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just can't. Unfortunately, if you are an adult who is old enough to have a mortgage and drive a car, and you do like Disney, take a long hard look in the mirror.
Yeah, and if you are an adult and you like Disney, comment, because I agree. To be fair, I will qualify that. Disney was my least. The Disney parks. This is niche. Disney parks were my least favourite of the parks, and the Universal parks were sick. I can't be like
See, I just want a roller coaster who sets out his stall as I'm a roller coaster. I'm going to fucking cunt you into the air. It's going to be mental. And then I'm going to bring you back down to reality. And I'm not going to pretend to be a flying horse.
I like flying horses.
Right. Disneyland's overrated.
Underrated. Anyway, that's funny. Mine is very, very different conversation, which is funny. Underrated, overrated. Doing arduous things.
Right.
See, I know we agree on this, but I thought we had to bring it up.
Set out your stall.
Yeah, so we, as you all know, went to IFS this weekend. Came back, didn't we, feeling a bit inadequate.
To say the least.
So a lot of people there had done far more than us, right? Far more successful. Older, to be fair. And, you know, if you live in your own little echo chamber, you think, oh, I'm doing alright, cool, whatever. If you don't expose yourself to things. But if you expose yourself to people who are infinitely more successful, more achieved than you, then you feel like, fucking hell, I haven't done anything. But if you take that as inspiration and not just like drowned by it, you take it as inspiration, then it can inspire you to go and do the things that these people have maybe done, or style of things that these people have done that have gained your respect, and then potentially gain your own.
Yeah. So this is the key point, you mentioned it there. You've got to take inspiration from it and not be downtrodden by it.
Yeah.
So you've got to remember that you're not an entirely a sack. You don't put yourself down too much.
No.
But you take inspiration for the fact that you can always do more.
Well, always, yeah. And you look at someone.
And it's all about that balance, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And you don't have to copy them and do exactly the same as them.
No, you've got to tread your own path in
You've got
life.
to make it your own. But if you're always comfortable and being, and pushing yourself down like a non-challenging, comfortable route, then effectively you're not growing, because you're not leaving your zone of comfort, first of all. But the other thing is, you're never going to get any, like we were talking about before, perspective on menial things in life. If the most stressful thing you've had to deal with is, for your example, not hitting your sales targets at work, it's like, right,
You've not really lived, have you, there?
not at all. So if you expose yourself to something a little bit more, difficult, arduous, whatever it is, it doesn't have to be physical, it can be anything really.
It's like you were saying earlier about constantly pushing the needle. The more you push the needle, the more everything else kind of falls away into irrelevance.
Yeah, exactly that.
So you want to be striving to always push the needle.
Yeah, because otherwise these little stresses that happen daily, by the way,
Derail your entire week.
yeah, exactly, which you can't operate like that.
No.
You have to be able to operate like, okay, you're gonna have little failings in the week, or things aren't going to go your way, but because you've got this wealth of experience in other things that are maybe more arduous, or more cause more of a trauma to you, you don't see those things as an issue.
Let's draw on the example of our mate from the coffee shop, Pig and Pickle Woman.
Oh shit, yeah, go on,
Do you want to explain that, or shall I explain it?
you explain it.
So basically, there's a kind of like an older woman that is always in the local coffee shop that we work from sometimes, and she basically just gobs off at people, doesn't she? She's not really got anything better to do, not to put her down, but she's in there in the middle of the day and she's not working.
In there today.
Well, she's unemployed, and anyway, you were in there the other day, weren't you? And she was flapping to the point where like it had literally derailed her entire week.
Yeah.
Because she'd missed a job interview that, as far as we could gather, she'd basically just missed because she's got shit admin.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's her fault, first of all, and she's in there not taking any action about it, which also these events and these things will teach you to do, teach you how to deal with discomfort and deal with things that don't go your way. Because say you're doing a fucking Iron Man, for example. First of all, the prep is going to be ridiculous. So there's going to be things that happen along the prep which aren't going to go your way. But in the actual event, inevitably your fucking goggles are going to flood, or your bike's going to break. Something's going to happen where you think, oh, this wasn't in the script. This isn't something that was supposed to happen. But I've been building up for this for ages, and now this fucking happens. That could derail a lot of people. But until you face that and actually overcome it, and then still cross the finish line, however that looks like, then you'll not be exposing yourself to these things, and like you say, something like that, missing a fucking job interview, which is menial at best.
Yeah, so any other person would kind of ring ahead and say, oh, I'm going to be late, can we put it back by half an hour? Or they'd plan for such eventualities, such as traffic, and then make sure that they left the house half an hour earlier.
Yeah, and we do like to poke fun at my admin on this podcast. However, when there is something of importance, I'll pull my finger out.
Yeah.
When there's a job interview,
you pull your shit out the fire
exactly.
when you need to.
When there's a job interview, I'll prep for it. When there's a fucking, something that's like a Zoom call with someone I deem of importance, I'll prep and I'll be presentable and I'll dress like a fucking real human being. I won't wear fizz rig. Like, these are just things that I'm mega chilled out with everything else. But if there's something that's important that's in the diary, I'll dig out. Like a sales call, I'm not going to just fucking rock up for it. Because it directly affects how I feel about how the week's gone. So, I guess, the lesson is to always continue to leave your comfort zone, leave your zone of comfort. Because if you, like I said, if you exist in that zone of comfort all the time, you're never gonna grow. Because it's the two can't live at the same time.
If you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much room.
Exactly that, and we like that.
And that is a truism of life.
Yeah.
If you're not pushing it, not all the time, you're not actually fucking David Goggins. You live in a state of kind of perpetual pain and agony.
Yeah.
But like, there's always a time and a place to just push that needle a bit more.
Yeah. And that time and place is a few times a year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like properly challenge yourself.
Yeah.
So you can always move the needle, like, and it doesn't have to be arduous either.
No.
It's like if you normally walk for half an hour in the morning, walk for 35 minutes.
Yeah.
But like, as in terms of like hard challenges where you actually have to kind of almost
Prepare.
take yourself out of your normal environment and put yourself into a completely new environment.
Yeah.
You want to be doing them like once a season.
Yeah.
As in like
3 or 4 times a year kind of thing.
as in like spring, summer, autumn, winter.
Yeah, because you want to... And this can be anything. I think I'll link it back to... So obviously we did the marathon, which we're probably talking about here. That was a physical example. So something... I'd always said, oh, fuck it, I'm never doing a marathon. Look, shit. I ended up, getting really into the prep and doing that. And obviously things didn't go your way and all that kind of stuff. But you can listen to the marathon episode to cover that off. So that's a physical example. Like, a business example would be the seminar. Like, so out of my depth.
Yeah.
So
That was completely new for us both, wasn't it?
Exactly. So out of our depth doing that and like marketing it, trying to sell the ticket, like so something I hadn't fucking done, hadn't had any help or guidance on it, and that comes through, and then you think, fucking hell, look, if I can do that, I can do it better, I can do it again,
And we are going to do it again.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
stay tuned for that.
Stay tuned for that.
And then in November we're doing High Rocks.
Yes,
So that's
November 4th. We'll be doing High Rocks. That'll be a Saturday. That'll be in Amsterdam, which is kind of cool.
So
we're going to book that now.
So that'll be a good debrief episode.
Yes. Is there anything else coming up that we need to... Oh, yeah. I've got a charity event, which I keep forgetting about. It's in about a month. The middle of October, we're doing the 3 Peaks in Yorkshire with an 80 kilo stretcher between, I think, 12 of us. Yeah.
I should stress, I'm not doing this because it sounds fucking rank.
Yeah, so this is
lads from the core, isn't it?
Yeah, well, lad from the core is now in the RAF, so it's the RAF for running it.
Right.
But yeah, that'd be good. If you go to Instagram, if you want to donate, that'd be great. It's Peaky Zappers is the page, top lane. And if you want to give any money, that'd be appreciated. But that's all, is it?
There's always we're going to get into jiu-jitsu as well at some point.
Yes.
That's fucking so much to do. Upgrade the podcast. Oh, start the podcast.
Start
That's something else we did this year.
Oh yeah, true.
Fucking hell.
That's true.
No experience of podcasting previously.
Yeah.
And we now commit to
To
an
one a
episode
week.
to an episode a week.
And we committed to that at the start of the year. We're like, it might be shit. It might not have anything to talk about. Might have any listeners. We're gonna do one a week because this is what. And you can take this away. This is your final lesson from today's episode.
Yeah,
if you've made it this far, we'll give you some gold at the end. Right. So
We have thrown a lot of shit at the wall this week.
we are. I hope you're taking those. So if you don't be consistent, you can't succeed. If you do be consistent, you might succeed. So keep that in mind, folks, because we've been consistent with this podcast so far, and it continues to grow a little bit.
We've still not made it.
Not made it, but it continues to grow every week.
It's doing fucking pretty well though.
If we'd stopped episode 15 because we were like, fuck, it's not growing like we wanted to. It's a bit, too much effort.
We didn't go viral for like the effort that we put into it. You know what I mean?
Bit too much effort. The people know who we are. Fucking all this arrogance. We wouldn't be here, and we wouldn't have any chance to make it, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because we'd have stopped. So anything in life that you're doing, apply that, because that is a pretty good lesson, logic, all that kind of stuff.
And on that note, we've still got one more fucking segment.
Oh shit!
Reasons to be cheerful. We gobbed off rages here. It's gonna be like a 2-hour podcast.
Part 2. Yeah.
Right, so we'll wrap this up quickly.
Okay,
What was the reason to be cheerful?
That's good, isn't it? So you've forgotten.
So we did.
I've fucking chatted that much shit.
For 2 hours.
Reasons to be cheerful.
Oh, that was it. Right, okay.
Glad you remembered.
Don't be depressed because it's the end of summer. I've heard this a lot over the past week. Back to school, people are getting a bit morbid, because it's not as light at night
Seasonal
anymore.
affective disorder.
Yeah, see, now I suffer from this. Right, you've got to put a positive spin on it. This is a great opportunity for you to get into running.
And you might think, what? Running? It's getting dark, it's raining, it's cold. Yeah, we know. But it's also race season.
Yeah.
So, over the next couple of months, you'll see on the weekends, if you search them, tons of 10Ks, 5Ks, half marathons.
Park runs.
So much going on Sundays. So if you are completely new to running, look for a park run in 8 weeks on a Sunday. Sign up for that. Then you've got a little bit of motivation to draw you in.
Jump on the Couch to 5k app or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Easy money. That's not even 8 weeks, is it? Like 6 or something. Yeah. So you've got 2 weeks to fucking just rap afterwards. Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah. So look forward to, if you're not into running, pretty irrelevant, but.
Well, no, it's not necessarily just running race season either. So you've got like High Rocks events and stuff.
True.
And I know they run all through the year, but now is a better time to do them because it won't be fucking roasting.
And also, there is a bigger volume of them now.
Yeah.
So they're almost every weekend now. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to come and see us in Amsterdam, if you're there, then do it. You can get spectator tickets for something. Like
Have we got any?
€25.
Have we got any Dutch listeners?
Don't know, probably not.
I wish we had some fucking Lang Scandi listeners. Well, we probably alienated them when I said that all Germans smell.
Say it again now.
No one's listening. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter,
that's true. Anyway, that's the reason to be cheerful. It's been a long episode, so we'll let you go. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
See you in a